All right, buckle up, because this ain't your grandma's courtroom drama. This is about a life hanging in the balance, a past colliding with the present, and a judge on the edge of everything he thought he knew. We're talking high-stakes legal battles, the digital frontier of justice, and a face from the past that's about to blow this whole thing wide open. 20 years ago, in a rain-slicked, forgotten corner of the city, two lives intersected in a way no one could have predicted. One was a man consumed by darkness, standing on the precipice, ready to fall. The other was a woman, a stranger, who offered a single, unexpected hand. That hand pulled him back, gave him a second chance, a shot at a future he couldn't see for himself. Fast forward to today. That man is now a powerful judge, a digital arbiter of justice on one of the biggest platforms in the world. A legal tech powerhouse partnered with giants like Amazon, leveraging the raw power of AWS and the reach of LegalZoom. He presides over cases that shape lives, his rulings carrying the weight of undeniable authority. His name is Judge Thorne. He's built an empire of logic and precedent, a fortress of rational thought, impenetrable and unyielding. His courtroom is a sterile, high-tech environment, bathed in the cool glow of multiple monitors, algorithms analyzing every data point, every nuance of the proceedings. The air is thick with the hum of servers and the crackle of digital transmission. Justice here is efficient, streamlined, almost clinical. It's a far cry from the chaotic, messy reality of that rainy night 2 decades ago. Today, the case before him is a complex one, involving intellectual property rights and a small, struggling tech startup. The defendant is a woman, her face projected onto the massive screen behind the prosecution. Judge Thorne scans her image, a routine procedure before the arguments begin. He's seen thousands of faces flicker across that screen, each one a potential story, a potential life-altering decision. But this face is different. It's etched with worry, lines of stress creasing her brow, but beneath the hardship, there's a familiar strength in her eyes, a quiet resilience. Something in the tilt of her head, the way she holds herself, ignites a spark of recognition, a flicker of something long buried in the back of his mind. He leans back in his chair, his fingers hovering over the illuminated controls on his desk. The prosecution begins their opening statement, a slick, well-rehearsed presentation of their case, highlighting the defendant's alleged infringement, the potential damages, the clear violation of established protocols. The words wash over him, but his attention is fixed on the image on the screen. He zooms in slightly, the AI-powered facial recognition software on his console running in the background, comparing her features to a vast database of public records, legal filings, online profiles. The software churns through data, cross-referencing and analyzing, a silent digital detective. He tries to shake off the feeling. It's just another case, another defendant. His job is to apply the law impartially and without personal bias. That's the foundation of his reputation, the bedrock of his success. He's a machine of justice, programmed for fairness and efficiency. But this feeling, it's a glitch in the system, a human error in his carefully constructed world. The prosecution continues, detailing the intricate technical aspects of the case, the lines of code allegedly stolen, the market share impacted. They throw around terms like proprietary algorithms, scalable solutions, and disruptive technology. It's the language of his world, the world of legal tech and innovation. But in his mind, the words are fading, replaced by fragmented memories. A cold night, the smell of damp concrete, the weight of despair pressing down on him, and a voice, soft but firm, cutting through the darkness. He remembers the feeling of utter hopelessness, the conviction that ending it all was the only way out. He remembers the biting wind whipping around him, the dizzying height of the bridge. He remembers the silence, broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the thumping of his own desperate heart. And then he remembers her, standing there just a few feet away, her face obscured by the shadows and the rain, but her presence a beacon in the storm. He shakes his head, trying to refocus on the present. The AI on his console pings, a small, discreet notification. The facial recognition results are in. He glances at the screen, his breath catching in his throat. The probability match is high, very high. The name is unfamiliar, but the associated details, the date of birth, the general location, they align with his fragmented memories. It's a chilling confirmation, a jolt of electricity running through him. The defendant is now speaking, her voice projected through the courtroom's speakers. She's explaining her side of the story, her passion for her startup, the long hours she's poured into her work, the belief that her technology is unique and innovative. She speaks with conviction, a quiet fire burning in her eyes. And as she speaks, the past and the present begin to blur, the woman on the screen merging with the ghost of a memory from 20 years ago. He remembers the way she spoke to him that night, not with pity or judgment, but with a quiet understanding. She didn't try to lecture him or offer platitudes. She simply spoke to him as one human being to another, acknowledging his pain without minimizing it. She shared a small, seemingly insignificant story about her own struggles, a moment of vulnerability that cracked open his own defenses. She didn't try to save him, not in the conventional sense. She just offered him a choice, a reason to keep going, a tiny sliver of hope in the overwhelming darkness. The prosecution wraps up their initial presentation, their arguments sharp and precise, built on a foundation of data and legal precedent. They present their evidence, spreadsheets detailing financial losses, expert testimony on the technical similarities between the two technologies. It's a strong case, a case built to win. And based on the evidence presented so far, the law is clearly on the side of the prosecution. But Judge Thorne is no longer just looking at the evidence. He's looking at the woman on the screen, the woman who 20 years ago looked at him and saw not a failure, but a person worth saving. His perfectly ordered world is suddenly thrown into disarray. The algorithms and the legal precedents, the pillars of his judicial life, are now competing with a powerful, undeniable human connection. This isn't just a case anymore. This is a test, a moral dilemma of epic proportions. His judgment here won't just impact the fate of a startup. It will determine the fate of his own carefully constructed identity. The air in the courtroom feels different now, charged with an unspoken tension. The lawyers and the court staff continue their work, oblivious to the silent storm brewing within the judge. They see only the professional, impartial Judge Thorne, the man who upholds the law with unwavering resolve. They don't see the man who 20 years ago stood on a bridge, his life hanging by a thread, and the woman who offered him a lifeline. He has a decision to make, a decision that will ripple far beyond this courtroom. He can follow the letter of the law, deliver a verdict based solely on the evidence, and uphold the principles of the legal system he serves. Or he can acknowledge the profound, life-altering impact this woman had on his life, a debt that can never be fully repaid. But how can he reconcile his personal debt with his professional duty? How can he be impartial when his own life was saved by the very person whose fate he now holds in his hands? The weight of the decision presses down on him, heavier than any legal brief or expert testimony. He looks at the defendant again, her eyes meeting his through the screen. In that moment, a silent communication passes between them, a flicker of recognition in her eyes as well, a faint ghost of a smile that tugs at the corners of her lips. She remembers. She remembers the rain, the bridge, the man she pulled back from the brink. The realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. She knows. She knows who he is, and she knows what she did for him. And now, he is the one who holds the power to decide her future. The irony is almost unbearable. He clears his throat, the sound amplified in the hushed courtroom. The lawyers turn their attention back to him, their expressions expectant. They're waiting for his instructions, for the next step in the legal process. But for the first time in his career, Judge Thorne is unsure of what that next step should be. His carefully constructed facade of impartiality is cracking, revealing the raw human vulnerability beneath. This case, this woman, has forced him to confront the man he was, the man he almost wasn't, and the man he has become. Because of her. And now he has to decide if the man who owes her his life can be the same man who presides over her potential ruin. The courtroom is silent. The only sound, the faint hum of the technology that surrounds them. Judge Thorne's gaze remains fixed on the defendant, his mind racing, grappling with the impossible choice before him. The future of her company, her livelihood, hangs in the balance. But more than that, the integrity of his own life, the meaning of the second chance she gave him, is on the line. He can't pretend this is just another case. It's personal, deeply, profoundly personal. And the weight of that truth is almost too much to bear. He knows he has to address this. He can't simply ignore the connection, the history that binds them. To do so would be a betrayal of everything she stood for that rainy night, a betrayal of the life she saved. But how can he do it? How can he acknowledge the past without compromising the impartiality of the present? The rules of his profession are clear, the ethical guidelines strict. Any hint of bias, any personal connection to a case, is grounds for recusal. He could step down, citing a conflict of interest. That would be the easy way out, the safe option. It would protect his reputation, his career, the carefully constructed image of the impartial judge. But it would also be a cowardly act, a refusal to face the truth, a denial of the profound debt he owes this woman. He looks at her again, really looks at her. He sees the fear in her eyes, the uncertainty, but also that same quiet strength he remembered from all those years ago. She's fighting for her dream, for her creation, for everything she's worked for. And she's doing it against the might of a large corporation, armed with a battery of lawyers and the full force of the legal system. He knows what it's like to feel overwhelmed, to feel like the odds are stacked against you, to stand on the edge of despair. He makes a decision. It's a risky one, a gamble that could cost him everything. But he can't walk away. He owes her more than just his life. He owes her his courage. He owes her the truth. He clears his throat again, the sound now deliberate, authoritative. The lawyers tense, leaning forward in their chairs. The defendant's gaze is fixed on him, a question in her eyes. Before we proceed, Judge Thorne begins, his voice calm and steady, masking the turmoil within him. There is a matter that I must address. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air, creating a sense of anticipation in the courtroom. A matter of a personal nature, directly related to the defendant. A ripple of surprise goes through the lawyers, their carefully composed expressions replaced by curiosity and a hint of apprehension. They exchange quick glances, wondering what unexpected turn this is about to take. This is highly unusual, unprecedented in Judge Thorne's courtroom. He takes a deep breath, preparing himself for the storm he knows is coming. He's about to expose a part of his life he has kept hidden for 2 decades, a secret that has shaped him in ways he is only now fully comprehending. He is about to lay bare his vulnerability, his debt, his humanity, in front of the very system that demands his unwavering impartiality. Approximately 20 years ago, he continues, his voice gaining strength, I was in a very dark place, a place of despair and hopelessness. He doesn't elaborate, doesn't need to. The implication is clear, the weight of those words hanging heavy in the air. I was standing on a bridge, contemplating ending my life. A collective gasp fills the courtroom, a ripple of shock and disbelief. The lawyers are stunned, their mouths slightly agape. The court staff freezes, their fingers hovering over their keyboards. The defendant's eyes widen, a mixture of surprise and understanding crossing her face. On that night, Judge Thorne continues, his gaze fixed on the defendant. A stranger approached me. A woman. She didn't know me, had no reason to help me. But she did. He pauses again, allowing the gravity of the moment to sink in. She spoke to me, offered me a moment of her time, a moment of kindness. And in that moment, she gave me a reason to keep going. She saved my life. He looks directly at the defendant, his voice filled with emotion, a raw, unfiltered honesty that is jarring in the sterile environment of the courtroom. That woman, he says, his voice trembling slightly, was the defendant, Ms. Anya Sharma. The silence in the courtroom is deafening. The revelation hangs in the air, a powerful, undeniable truth that has shattered the carefully constructed illusion of impartiality. All eyes are on Judge Thorne, waiting to see what he will do next, how he will navigate this unprecedented situation. The rules are clear, the ethical guidelines unambiguous. He has a personal connection to the defendant, a connection that goes to the very core of his existence. He must recuse himself. But is that the only option? Can he simply walk away from this, leaving the fate of the woman who saved him in the hands of someone else? Someone who doesn't understand the depth of the debt he owes, the profound impact she had on his life. He looks at Anya again, her face a mixture of shock and a quiet dignity. She doesn't say anything, doesn't need to. Her presence is enough, a living reminder of the past, a silent witness to the truth he has just revealed. The prosecution, a slick, aggressive team from a top-tier firm, recovers from their initial shock. The lead prosecutor, a woman with a reputation for ruthless efficiency, steps forward, her voice sharp and professional. Your Honor, she begins, her tone respectful but firm. While we appreciate the personal nature of your statement, given the circumstances you have just described, it is our position that a clear conflict of interest exists. We respectfully request that you recuse yourself from this case. The other lawyers on the prosecution team nod in agreement, their expressions grim. They know the rules, and they know that Judge Thorne's revelation has created a significant ethical dilemma. His impartiality is now compromised, his ability to preside over this case called into question. Judge Thorne listens to the prosecutor's words, the logical, predictable response to his revelation. He knows she's right, according to the letter of the law, according to the ethical guidelines that govern his profession. Recusal is the standard procedure in such a situation, but the standard procedure feels insufficient, inadequate, in the face of the life-altering event that connects him to the defendant. How can he simply hand this off to another judge, another nameless face in the legal system? This is not just a case. It is a karmic intersection, a moment of reckoning. He takes another deep breath, his mind racing, weighing the options, the consequences. His career, his reputation, everything he has worked for is on the line. But so is the fate of the woman who gave him a second chance at life. He looks at Anya again, and in her eyes he sees not just the defendant in a legal case, but the angel who appeared in his darkest hour. He sees the person who saw him, truly saw him, when he felt invisible and worthless. He makes another decision, one that is even riskier than the first. It's a decision that goes against the very principles of the legal system he serves, a decision that could have serious repercussions for his career. But it's a decision that feels right, a decision that honors the debt he owes, the life he was given. I understand the prosecution's request, Judge Thorne says, his voice steady and resolute. And under normal circumstances, I would agree. A conflict of interest clearly exists. He pauses, his gaze sweeping across the courtroom, taking in the faces of the lawyers, the court staff, the reporters who are undoubtedly scrambling to report this unprecedented development. However, he continues, his voice ringing with conviction, these are not normal circumstances. A collective murmur goes through the courtroom, a wave of confusion and anticipation. What is he about to do? Is he actually going to defy the clear ethical guidelines? Ms. Sharma saved my life, Judge Thorne states, his voice clear and strong, leaving no room for doubt. Without her, I would not be here today, sitting on this bench, presiding over this courtroom. I owe her a debt that can never be fully repaid. He looks at the prosecution, his expression firm. While I acknowledge the potential for bias, I believe that recusal in this instance would be a disservice to justice. More murmurs, louder this time. The lawyers are openly conferring, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. This is unheard of. A judge acknowledging a conflict of interest and then refusing to recuse himself? It's a direct challenge to the established norms of the legal system. My decision in this case, Judge Thorne continues, his voice unwavering, will be based solely on the evidence presented and the applicable law. I will weigh the facts, the arguments, and the legal precedents, just as I would in any other case. He knows he is walking a tightrope, balancing his personal debt with his professional duty. He knows that his decision will be scrutinized, challenged, and debated. But he is willing to take that risk. However, he adds, his gaze softening slightly as he looks at Anya, I will ensure that Ms. Sharma receives a fair and impartial trial. I will grant her every opportunity to present her case, to call witnesses, and to challenge the prosecution's evidence. He is making a promise, not just to the defendant, but to himself, to the woman who gave him a second chance. The prosecution is clearly unhappy with his decision, their faces etched with frustration and anger. They know that challenging a judge's decision on recusal is a difficult and often fruitless endeavor. But they also know that this case is now tainted, the impartiality of the judge compromised in the eyes of many. Judge Thorne ignores their displeasure. He has made his decision, a decision that is both a personal tribute and a professional gamble. He knows the risks involved, but he believes that honoring the woman who saved him is more important than upholding the strict letter of the law. We will proceed with the case, Judge Thorne states, his voice returning to its usual authoritative tone. Prosecution, you may call your first witness. The courtroom, which moments before was buzzing with shock and speculation, settles into a tense silence. The wheels of justice, albeit now heavily influenced by a remarkable turn of events, begin to turn. The trial of Anya Sharma, the woman who saved Judge Elias Thorne's life, is officially underway. And the world watches, captivated by the unprecedented drama unfolding in this high-tech courtroom, where the past has collided with the present, and the future of both a startup and a judge's career hangs in the balance. The algorithms are still analyzing, the data is still flowing, but now a deeply human element has been injected into the cold, logical world of legal tech. And everyone in that courtroom and watching remotely knows that this case is unlike any other. The prosecution calls their first witness, a technical expert who testifies about the alleged similarities between Anya's software and the plaintiff's proprietary code. The witness, a man with a confident demeanor and an air of authority, speaks in a language filled with technical jargon, explaining the intricate details of algorithms and data structures. He uses charts and graphs displayed on the massive screens to illustrate his points, highlighting the supposed evidence of infringement. Judge Thorne listens intently, his expression neutral, his questions pointed and insightful. He doesn't betray any hint of the personal connection that has just been revealed. He is back in judge mode, his mind processing the technical information, evaluating the expert's testimony, and ensuring that the proceedings adhere to the strict rules of evidence. He asks questions that challenge the expert's assumptions, probing for weaknesses in his analysis, demanding clarity on the complex technical details. He is the impartial arbiter, the master of the courtroom, even as the weight of his personal history presses down on him. Anya's defense attorney, a sharp and experienced litigator, begins her cross-examination. She challenges the expert's credentials, questioning his methodology and highlighting potential biases. She points out discrepancies in his analysis, suggesting alternative interpretations of the technical evidence. It's a battle of experts, a clash of technical knowledge and legal strategy. Throughout the cross-examination, Judge Thorne watches Anya. She is calm and composed, listening intently to the testimony, occasionally conferring with her attorney. He sees the intelligence in her eyes, the determination in her posture. He sees the same strength that he saw on that rainy night, the strength that pulled him back from the edge. The trial continues, witness after witness taking the stand, presenting evidence and arguments. The prosecution paints a picture of deliberate infringement, of a small startup stealing from a larger, established company. They present evidence of market impact, of lost revenue, of damage to their brand. They are building a strong case, a case that on its face seems difficult to refute. But Anya's defense attorney is relentless. She argues that the similarities in the code are due to the common practices in the industry, that Anya's technology is based on publicly available information, and that her innovations are unique and distinct. She presents evidence of Anya's own development process, showing the long hours and hard work that went into creating her software. She highlights the differences between the two technologies, emphasizing Anya's innovative approach and her focus on a different market segment. As the trial progresses, Judge Thorne finds himself not just evaluating the legal arguments, but also reflecting on his own journey. He remembers the years of hard work and dedication that led him to the bench, the countless hours he spent studying law, building his career, striving for excellence. He remembers the doubts and fears he overcame, the moments of despair he pushed through. He remembers the person who gave him the opportunity to have that journey in the first place. He sees the same dedication and passion in Anya, the same determination to succeed against the odds. He sees a reflection of his own struggles, his own triumphs, in her fight to protect her startup. During a break in the proceedings, as the lawyers are reviewing documents and preparing for the next witness, Judge Thorne allows himself a moment of quiet reflection. He looks at the empty seat where Anya was sitting just moments before, and the image of her face on the screen behind it. He thinks about the unexpected twist of fate that has brought them together again in such a dramatically different setting. He wonders about her life over the past 20 years. What were her struggles? What were her triumphs? Did she ever think about that night on the bridge? Did she ever wonder what became of the man she saved? He wants to ask her, to talk to her, to express his gratitude, to understand her journey. But he knows he cannot. The rules of his profession, the need for impartiality, prevent him from having any personal contact with the defendant outside of the courtroom. The weight of his decision to remain on the case is heavy. He knows that if he rules in favor of Anya, the prosecution will likely appeal, citing his personal connection as grounds for a mistrial. His career could be jeopardized, his reputation tarnished. But if he rules against her, if he finds her guilty of infringement, he will be sending the woman who saved his life to financial ruin, potentially destroying everything she has built. It's an impossible situation, a no-win scenario. Yet, he knows he has to make a decision. He can't simply defer to someone else. He has to face this head-on, to use the judgment and wisdom he has gained over the years, the wisdom that she, in part, enabled him to acquire. He recalls a conversation he had with his mentor, a wise and experienced judge, early in his career. They were discussing the complexities of justice, the delicate balance between the letter of the law and the spirit of fairness. His mentor had told him that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that require you to look beyond the black and white, to consider the human element, the impact of your rulings on real lives. That conversation resonates with him now more than ever. This case is not just about intellectual property and legal precedents. It is about two lives, two journeys, intertwined by a single pivotal moment. It is about the debt of gratitude and the burden of responsibility. The break ends, and the courtroom comes back to life. The next witness is called, and the trial resumes. Judge Thorne focuses on the proceedings, his mind sharp and analytical. But beneath the surface, the personal struggle continues. He is a judge, a legal expert, a pillar of the community. But he is also a man who was saved from despair by a stranger, a man who owes his very existence to the woman who is now standing trial before him. He knows that the eyes of the legal community, and likely the world, are on him. His decision in this case will be scrutinized, debated, and analyzed. It will set a precedent, not just in the legal sense, but in the human sense. Can a judge truly be impartial when his own life is intrinsically linked to the defendant? Can justice be served when the arbiter owes a debt of gratitude to one of the parties? He doesn't have the answers yet, but he knows he has to find them. He has to navigate this complex ethical landscape to find a path that honors both his professional duty and his personal truth. He owes it to himself, to the legal system, and most importantly, to Anya. As the evidence is presented, as the arguments are made, Judge Thorne finds himself looking for not just the legal truth, but the human truth. He looks beyond the technical jargon and the legal precedents, searching for the intent, the motivation, the human story behind the case. He sees Anya's passion, her dedication, her belief in her own innovation. He sees the challenges she has faced, the obstacles she has overcome. He sees a woman who is fighting for her dream, just as he once fought for his own. He also sees the plaintiff's perspective, the damage they claim has been done, the potential impact on their business. He understands the importance of protecting intellectual property, of fostering innovation, of ensuring a fair and competitive marketplace. He knows that his decision will have significant consequences for both parties, for the future of their businesses, and for the broader legal tech industry. The trial is nearing its end. The final witnesses have been called. The last arguments have been made. The lawyers are preparing their closing statements, their final opportunity to persuade the judge. The tension in the courtroom is palpable, the weight of anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Judge Thorne sits on the bench, his expression unreadable. He has heard all the evidence, all the arguments. He has listened intently, asked probing questions, and carefully considered every aspect of the case. But the decision he faces is not just a legal one. It is a deeply personal one. He looks at Anya, her face now etched with exhaustion, but her eyes still reflecting that same quiet strength. He knows that her future is in his hands, that his decision will determine whether her dream survives or is crushed. He knows that this moment is the culmination of 20 years of intertwined fates, of a life saved and a debt owed. He closes his eyes for a brief moment, the image of that rainy night on the bridge flashing before him. He remembers the feeling of despair, the icy grip of hopelessness. And he remembers the hand that reached out to him, the voice that offered him a second chance. He remembers Anya. He opens his eyes, his gaze clear and focused. He's ready to make his decision. He has weighed the evidence, considered the legal precedents, and grappled with the ethical dilemma. He has searched for the truth, both legal and human, and he believes he has found it. He knows that his decision will be controversial, that it will be questioned and debated, but he is prepared to stand by it, to defend it, to face the consequences. He owes it to Anya, to the life she saved, to the second chance she gave him. He owes it to himself, to the man he has become, the man who was pulled back from the brink. The lawyers are ready, their closing statements prepared. The courtroom is silent, waiting for the judge to begin. Judge Thorne takes a deep breath and leans forward, his voice resonating with authority and conviction. The moment of truth has arrived, and the world watches as Judge Elias Thorne, the man whose life was saved by the defendant, prepares to deliver his verdict. The courtroom holds its breath. Judge Thorne's gaze sweeps across the faces of the lawyers, then settles on Anya. The weight of the moment is immense, a culmination of 20 years of intertwined fates. He has to be precise, his words carefully chosen. Every sentence will be dissected, every nuance analyzed. This court has carefully considered all the evidence presented. Judge Thorne begins, his voice calm and measured, masking the turbulent emotions swirling within him. The expert testimony, the technical analyses, the financial data, and the legal arguments put forth by both the prosecution and the defense. He pauses, allowing his words to sink in. The silence is broken only by the faint whirring of the courtroom's digital recording equipment and the occasional click of a camera from the small press contingent present. The prosecution has presented a compelling case, he continues, acknowledging the strength of their arguments, highlighting the similarities between the software in question and the plaintiff's proprietary technology. He outlines the key points of the prosecution's argument, demonstrating that he has fully grasped the technical and legal complexities of the case. He is showing that he is not just acting on emotion, but that his decision is rooted in a thorough understanding of the facts. However, he states, his tone shifting slightly, introducing the crucial counterpoint. The defense has presented equally compelling evidence that the similarities are a result of common industry practices and the use of publicly available knowledge. He details the defense's arguments, highlighting Anya's independent development process and the unique aspects of her software. He emphasizes the differences between the two technologies, focusing on Anya's innovative approach and her target market. The defense has also presented evidence suggesting that Ms. Sharma's innovations are a natural progression of existing technologies. He continues, building his argument, and that her work represents a genuine contribution to the field. He is laying the groundwork for his decision, showing that he has considered all sides of the issue, not just the prosecution's claims. He then addresses the elephant in the room, the personal connection he revealed earlier. He knows he can't ignore it, but he has to frame it in a way that reinforces his commitment to justice, not undermines it. Earlier in these proceedings, Judge Thorne states, his voice gaining a quiet strength, I disclosed a personal connection to the defendant, Ms. Anya Sharma. I explained that Ms. Sharma, 20 years ago, saved my life. He looks directly at Anya, a silent acknowledgement of their shared history. This is a truth that I cannot and would not deny. He pauses, letting the weight of that statement settle upon the courtroom. The air is thick with anticipation. Everyone is waiting to hear how he will reconcile this personal debt with his judicial duty. However, he continues, his voice firm and resolute, My decision in this case is based solely on the evidence presented in this courtroom and the applicable law. My personal history, while profound and life-altering, does not dictate my interpretation of the legal principles governing intellectual property. He is drawing a clear line, separating his personal life from his professional judgment. He is arguing that while he owes Anya a personal debt, he does not owe her a favorable legal ruling. His impartiality, he is claiming, remains intact. It's a bold assertion, one that is likely to face scrutiny, but he delivers it with unwavering conviction. This court has carefully weighed the evidence of alleged infringement against the evidence of independent development and innovation, Judge Thorne states, his gaze sweeping across the courtroom. After thorough deliberation and applying the relevant legal standards, this court finds that the prosecution has failed to meet the burden of proof required to demonstrate willful and deliberate infringement. A collective gasp goes through the courtroom. Anya's defense attorney visibly exhales, a wave of relief washing over her face. The prosecution's lawyers are stunned, their carefully composed expressions crumbling into disbelief and frustration. While similarities in code and functionality may exist, Judge Thorne continues, explaining the rationale behind his decision. The evidence presented by the defense demonstrates that these similarities are largely coincidental, arising from common industry practices and the use of publicly available information. He is providing the legal justification for his ruling, showing that it is based on the merits of the case, not on his personal connection to the defendant. Furthermore, he adds, strengthening his argument, the defense has provided compelling evidence that Ms. Sharma's software incorporates significant innovations and unique features that distinguish it from the plaintiff's technology. He is highlighting the innovative aspects of Anya's work, emphasizing her contribution to the field and her independent efforts. Therefore, Judge Thorne concludes, his voice ringing with finality, based on the evidence presented and the applicable law, this court finds in favor of the defendant, Ms. Anya Sharma. He brings down his gavel with a firm thud, the sound echoing in the now stunned courtroom. Judgment is entered for the defendant, he states, his voice clear and authoritative. The case is dismissed. Anya's defense attorney is on her feet, her face beaming, shaking Anya's hand vigorously. Anya herself looks stunned, a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming relief on her face. Tears well up in her eyes as she looks at Judge Thorne, a silent message of gratitude passing between them. The prosecution is in disarray. Their lead attorney is whispering furiously to her colleagues, their faces etched with anger and disappointment. They have lost, and they know that challenging this ruling will be a difficult and potentially career-damaging endeavor, given the circumstances. Judge Thorne watches the reactions in the courtroom, his expression calm and controlled. He knows that his decision will be met with controversy, that it will be debated and analyzed for years to come. He knows that some will question his impartiality, that some will accuse him of favoritism. But he stands by his decision. He believes he has made the right choice, a choice that is both legally sound and morally just. He has not betrayed his professional duty. He has simply interpreted the law in a way that acknowledges the human element, the spirit of fairness, the debt of gratitude. He has shown that justice, even in the cold, digital world of legal tech, can still be tempered with compassion and humanity. He looks at Anya one last time, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching the corners of his lips. She saved his life, and today he has, in a way, saved hers. It is a karmic circle, a full circle moment that has brought them together in the most unexpected of circumstances. He rises from the bench, his robes rustling around him. The courtroom is still buzzing with the aftermath of his decision, the shock and surprise palpable in the air. He walks towards his chambers, his head held high. He knows he has faced a difficult challenge, an unprecedented ethical dilemma, and he believes he has navigated it with integrity and courage. As he enters his chambers, the door closing behind him, he allows himself a moment of quiet reflection. He has done what he believes is right, what honors the debt he owes, what upholds the spirit of justice. He has shown that even in the most complex and challenging of circumstances, it is possible to be both a just judge and a grateful human being. He sits at his desk, the screen still glowing with the details of the case. He looks at the image of Anya on one of the monitors, her face now filled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. He knows that their paths have crossed for a reason, that their lives are intertwined in a way that transcends the boundaries of the courtroom and the complexities of the legal system. He doesn't know what the future holds, what the fallout from his decision will be, but he knows that he has made a choice that aligns with his conscience, a choice that honors the life he was given. And in the end, that is all that truly matters. The legal battle may be over, but the human story, the story of a life saved and a debt repaid, is just beginning.